What's going on, everybody? This is Raw Dog Sports. I am Mike. That is Evo. Well, our object collision vision is about $1 million. It allows us to track 3% of the sky, and beg your pardon, sir, but it's a big ass sky. Welcome in, everybody. We had a fucking meteor hit down in Ohio today, so that's where that quote came from. If you did not know that, Evo, you are muted, by the way, whenever you do get in here. Just as a heads up, I had TikTok all set up, ready for us to go. We were going to go live on TikTok, but I can't turn the fucking monitor of TikTok off on this, so I hear an echo. So it did it again to me. There's no way around it. I don't know how we're going to find a way to get live on TikTok, but at some point, we may figure this bullshit out. But to everybody else tuning in right now, thank you very much. Evo, my man, how are you doing? Welcome in. We got some running backs, some edge to talk about, and a couple of big moves in the NFL. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm tired. If you can't tell, there isn't a big green dildo behind me right now. It's just I don't know, some sort of fancy picture of, looks like an old school Mickey Mouse rowing a canoe. I am currently in Florida on spring break with the family, doing all the normal Florida activities, hitting up Epcot tomorrow, which is the most boring of all the parks down here, but it was Epcot because the new Universal Studios Epic is absolutely completely sold out until like April. So that sucks, but I'm down here. It is interesting because I went from Arizona to Florida and now it's cold here. It was like 40 degrees in Florida today, which is bullshit. So it'll be nicer tomorrow, though. So having fun, extremely tired, and obviously setup's a little different. So if I sound weird, quiet, it's because I'm trying to not hurl obscenities like normal with my family about 30 feet away. So not in the normal podcast cave, but here ready to talk about some of these prospects, some things that have happened in the NFL over the past several days. Basically, one pretty significant trade went down earlier today, and then, break into some of these draft prospects at two really interesting positions in the draft today. Edge prospects is a pretty darn good class, like some pretty good players, some guys that could be considered blue chip. Running back, you have one guy who I would argue absolutely is a blue chip player, and then a whole bunch of other guys that are kind of jags to most people, but being someone who's a Vikings fan, we need running back help. Signing Aaron Jones back isn't going to do it for us. So I've been a little bit more intimately involved with this running back class, and I'm kind of excited for some of the prospects. But it'll be interesting to get your take on all that and thoughts on that. But Mike, how are you doing? Been watching the new little series that you've been putting out, 32 days of 32 mock drafts. If you want to talk a little bit about that, run us through how that's going.
Yeah, man. So honestly, I kind of stole the idea because I've seen everybody doing these mock drafts. I was like, well, fuck, how many days we got left? We have enough. Perfect. So we had 42 days. It's like, let's do a mock draft every day. Now, I would love to say that I am just deep in the weeds on all of these guys, but I'm not. I'm not going to lie to you. Our guy, a friend of the show now, Jeremy Green, is a little bit more in depth. It's a little bit where I stole this idea from. And I told him that today. But I've had a really good time doing it, man, because it's made me get more in depth on each team. But I'm still not going to be as knowledgeable as maybe some of these people that are super in depth with their teams are. There have been some people that have already given me some shit on some of the picks I've made. I appreciate it because listen, I am not going to be perfect. I appreciate a little bit of discourse. I can appreciate discourse when it's a good discourse. Some people, though, man, you can't give even the slightest critique on a prospect or people lose their fucking minds, man. Like that Sonny Styles video that went out, I talked about how much I love Sonny Styles. But guess what? Maui Noah destroyed the Ohio State defense in the college football playoff. And Sonny Styles was a part of that. So I said that, and people lost their shit. So listen, I get it. The people are going to disagree with the 32 mocks. They're going to disagree with some of the things we say, and I'm here for it. I'm here for the discord. But don't come at me because I'm also fucking crazy. I'll say some crazy shit on you. Believe me. Even you do it.
Yeah, for sure. Look, that's the thing is that no matter how much work you and I put in, or anyone, if it is their job, like the NFL Stocks Exchange guys and PFF, those guys constantly are getting called out left and right by everybody, because at the end of the day, even if you're intimately involved with just your team, if I'm just focusing on the Minnesota Vikings, I know the ins and outs of them, but there's constant disagreement amongst the fan base about which position group we need to go after, which players fit our system best, X, Y, Z. That's not even getting into strictly just the player themselves and breaking down a prospect. So it's always going to be disagreements online. And of course, we put ourselves out there, and you're putting yourself out there by doing all these mock drafts and attempting to, put your foot in the ring, say some thoughts on it. And of course, you're going to get some feedback. That's the thing that I would say is, like, I watch plenty of stuff on my team, and I hear all the time, oh, you need this position group or that position group, where if that analyst was more familiar with my team, they probably would be listing them differently, but they're not, because it's 32 NFL teams, 32 franchises, 50 some odd players, including the practice squad guys on every team. They're not going to know every player, who's still there, who's not, who's on the ins with the team or not. So, like, we're going to get it wrong. Tonight, when we go over prospects, we're going to get it wrong. It's just our view from our viewpoint. And so, by all means, if you want to get on here and trash us, we're okay with that. But we also would really love some good discourse, some good back and forth, because that's one thing about us being veterans is we are good with critical feedback, as long as it's not just like disrespectful feedback. We like the shit talk.
Blatant attacks on people for no reason.
Fat fucking AJ McCarron.
Yeah.
We would love to interact, get your thoughts, give our thoughts back, have a nice argument about it, and that's what we're here for, is connect with you, the fans.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I have really enjoyed it. Tomorrow is the Browns, so I'm fucking pumped for that. I'm going to try to knock these bitches out 32 days straight, not miss any days. I do have some other obligations kind of mixed in there with film school and college and all that shit going on. But I'm going to fucking try to just go 32 straight and get these all done. Because it's fun. I love this shit. Like, we are so lucky that, well, first of our wives support us and allow us this time to fuck off with our friend and talk about sports. But, like, we have had some opportunities. We're going to have more opportunities to do a lot of really cool shit because of the things that we have been trying to do here. So, you know what? If people get upset, it's going to happen. Fine. Fuck it. But it's been so much fun. We are so lucky that we get to fucking do this, that, I'm not going to let anybody rain on my parade.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beautiful thing is we aren't huge yet. We're still growing grassroots, and we want to stick to those grassroots. We want to be involved with the people who watch our show, the day one people who have been here with us. So use us. We're getting at some pretty cool access to things. Use us. If there's questions you want us to ask, things you want us to find out, we can be your agents. We can go out there and we can talk and figure these things out, be your boots on the ground. So rather than fight us on everything, ask us questions so that way we can get answers for you, because that's what we're here for.
Hold on. Where is he at? Right there. My man, Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental. Motherfuckers, ask some questions. All right, man. We ready to hop into the show?
Yeah, let's see if I can finish this rum and coke, one of many tonight before the show's over.
Yes, I actually, I wanted to get a beer because it is St. Patty's Day. I'm not a big drinker nowadays. I may still try to convince producer Amber to make a run for me so I can have one beer. I see that face. Yep, Evo just saw it as well.
As the eyes come up, yeah. Off screen. Saw it for sure.
Enjoy the drink, man. By the way, the Illusion place is fucking bonkers. I want to go there so bad. I want to take all of the goddamn pictures. That place looks cool as shit.
Yeah, we did the Museum of Illusions yesterday, I believe. Sorry, it's all a whirlwind here skating by. Did a lot of geocaching over the past 2 days too, which we haven't done before. But yeah, Museum of Illusions, real cool. All optical illusion things, little mind benders and things like that. It was pretty sweet. So having a lot of fun down here. It's going by too quick for sure. But that's the way spring breaks go when you're on vacation.
Absolutely. Now I have to admit that I'm stupid and I have no idea what geocaching is. So could you explain that to me?
Yeah, it's been a thing for a while. Back when I was stationed in Germany, people were doing it. But essentially, nature folk or people who like to get out and touch grass rather than stick on screens all the time will go out in hiking areas, nature preserves, or just around towns, and they will hide little containers and put them places like in a Target parking lot underneath the light post. You can lift up the square bottom, and we found a geocache in there. It's a little container. It's got a note where you can like write your name and date that you were there, and usually it has like for kids some little knickknacks and their little like Dollar Tree toys and stuff like
treasure
that.
Hunting. It's the community treasure hunt.
Treasure hunting all through an app that uses your GPS on your phone to help you geolocate all these things. And it forces you to go out either to different places that you haven't been before or to they'll leave little hints and things like that that'll help get you along the way. So we've been doing that. We've been to golf courses here in Florida. We've been to like sketchy back parts of movie theaters. We trekked through what looked like a Jurassic Park rainforest jungle today for about 30 minutes in order to find one out on a peninsula by a lake. It's pretty cool. It's fun for the boys, some fun activity to get outdoors instead of just sitting behind screens playing Roblox all day.
Yeah. Listen, Roblox is awful. I hated when my kids were on that. But that geotagging thing is really, or the geocaching is really kind of a cool concept. Hopefully, it stays a badass concept like that. It's kind of like almost like Pokemon, but less lame.
Yeah, and I think it's been pretty good because, like I said, this has been going on since at least 2010. I think we found a geocache that had been around since 2000 earlier today, and it's pretty grassroots. It's like you find something in the bucket, you take something out of it and put something else in, leave something for someone else type thing. Yeah, and in the back of my head, I'm always like, who's going to put fentanyl in one of these things or something like that? But it seems to be pretty cool so far. We actually went ahead and made our own geocache today and went and put it out in the middle of nature as well. So now we get a family geocache out here in Florida.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. Cool for you and the family. If I ever make it down to Florida again, I'm for sure checking out the Illusion place. I'm going to have to get this app and I'm going to go check out your guys' geocache.
For sure. But all right, brother, you ready to get into a little bit of football here?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's get into this shit. So the NFL decided that it was going to keep doing shit while we were trying to get ready for the draft and prospects. So we can't just hop right into the draft prospects. Big news is Jaylen Waddle finally on the fucking move. I mean, this has kind of been coming for a long time. I believe it was the Broncos that had interest in it before, and now it finally gets done. Do you like this deal for the Broncos? Was it too much to give up for Waddle?
It is a significant amount, in my opinion, to give up. So Waddle and a 4th round pick from the Dolphins goes over to Denver, and Denver sent the 30th overall pick in the 1st round this year, along with a late 3rd and a late 4th round pick. So when you weight that out, that gives Waddle a pretty dang high valuation. Jaylen Waddle is a good wide receiver. He's been around for a while, though. We don't really know what his true value is right now, though, just because Tua has been so bad over the past couple of years, and Waddle has a pretty extensive injury history. So I assume that he'd be going for more like a second round pick or something like that, especially when you're looking at this wide receiver draft where it is pretty loaded. We're not doing wide receivers today, but you can find true blue starting like number one, number two receivers through the first couple rounds. So trading away a Waddle who already is getting paid a decent amount of money, is on the back half of his career probably, and has an injury history, and just giving him up for a first round pick alone, let alone adding in the third and fourth in there, that's a tough pill to swallow for me. And looking at it from Denver's perspective, I don't think like they're like a wide receiver away from winning the Super Bowl. I think that they're a very good team, but I don't know that Waddle like necessarily tips them over the edge. Now, him and Cortland Sutton together is going to be an awesome combo. If they're able to find that joker tight end that they were looking for, that'll be great. And if they're able to continue establishing that run game, they brought J.K. Dobbins back, and they still obviously have, you know, that young core there. But if they're able to get that going, then sure, things could really fall in line for them. But to me, you just gave up a first round pick and some for an aging guy who's a fringe number 2 right now. I think Waddle has the potential to put out number 1 style statistics on a team, but it's really dependent on his health and things like that, which he's had difficulty staying on the field.
Yeah, he has definitely had difficulty staying on the field. And at times he absolutely went ghost. Now, you talked about it, Tua was absolutely atrocious the last couple of years. So is that Waddle or was that Tua? Well, I think we'll get to find out. Sean Payton's an excellent play caller, play designer. Bo Nix has done a good job of getting the ball to playmakers. Waddle should be able to do something pretty good. And you brought up, like, that offense is pretty stacked right now. They bring back J.K. Dobbins, but they also have R.J. Harvey, who's really good change of pace back, showed a little bit extra in the playoff run that he can run a little bit more between the tackles. Cortland Sutton, Jaylen Waddle, if they get that joker tight end, this thing is ready-made on offense. You got Garrett Bowles, that offensive line's really good. This team could be competing for a Super Bowl. I don't know that Waddle is the thing that says, yes, that now they're a Super Bowl team. But they were already like right there on the cusp. They were fucking super good as it were. And then I think giving up the first round pick though sucks, because that's like end of the first round. That's where they can get like a Stowers, who's a perfect joker tight end. And I don't think he's going to be there come their second round pick. Maybe he will be, but I just don't see that happening. He's such a weapon. So this move, while it's great for them, it takes away their ability to add a younger piece in the draft at one of those positions like a joker tight end.
You do bring up a good point, though. This was pick 30 in the first round. This is a Broncos team that's made the playoffs the past 2 years with Bo Nix at quarterback, both as a rookie and having his first year under his belt. They were able to make it to that AFC Championship game this last year. Their defense is outstanding. They haven't made a whole lot of moves this offseason, so they're kind of running it back. I like Waddle on the team. I don't like the value for him, and I just don't know that it's enough to put them kind of over that edge. But that being said, if they were playing a game versus the Patriots in the AFC Championship game and it didn't become a blizzard in that second half, maybe they're the ones that are advancing and playing the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. So they are a lot closer than I'm probably giving them credit for. And part of it is like Bo Nix negativity that I have of looking at him as being kind of a mid quarterback. So maybe there's some bias there for me as well with that. Look, Waddle is a good receiver, and we have seen him be excellent at times. So if they're able to milk out all of that potential from him, especially him being a good kind of underneath route runner, he's not necessarily the deep target guy. He's able to get a little bit more yak on his receptions. That's something that Bo Nix can absolutely work with that they really haven't had there in Denver.
So I'm right there with you. I agree with what you're saying, because I'm also kind of in the idea that Bo Nix is a little bit of a mid quarterback. Has moments where he's fucking spectacular, but has moments where he gets the
Bo Nix Award from Rod.
Yeah, where he gets the Bo Nix Award. Exactly. Yeah. Where would you place him? Like, if you were going to give him a range, The highest I think I could put him right now would probably be like 13.
Without looking at an actual list of all 32 NFL quarterbacks, I think peak potential, he is probably in that 10 to 13 range at his max. Most weeks he's a 15 to 18 type of quarterback for me. And then obviously his low end, Bo Nix Award winner type, 31, 32.
Yeah. Man, he had that rookie year. A couple of them games were real tough for Bo. Those stat lines were some of the most atrocious things I've ever seen. And you know what? There are quarterbacks that have played way worse games than Bo Nix. It just happened to be that Bo Nix landed on the week where we came up with an idea to have a worst fucking player award.
Yeah.
Because Anthony Richardson won the most Bo Nix awards of anybody. Way more than Bo Nix won them.
That's very true. Very true.
Oh, man. All right, brother. So, in other news, Maxx Crosby was fucking pissed, apparently, that he was not traded to the Ravens. I understand why. The Raiders are not a great team. You're kind of in a rebuild, hoping that things get turned around. Ravens, typically a really good team. But also, I have to question, like, how good is that team going to be with all of the changes that have taken place? Is this the same Ravens that you were expecting before? I understand Maxx is pissed because, you know what, he wants to get paid and he wants to move on. But are the Ravens really a premier destination right now based on their history and all the people that are there, or did a lot of that leave when Harbaugh left?
They definitely have taken a step back, in my opinion, just on the optics. It's tough. We obviously reacted to the Maxx Crosby news as it broke, that the trade was reversed by the Ravens. They called it off because of medicals. If we take a step back and imagine that Maxx Crosby trade didn't happen at all, and that the Trey Hendrickson signing was that big move, how big of a difference is that? Like, people were talking about the Ravens being Super Bowl contenders because they signed Maxx Crosby, and they aren't getting the same sort of shine by bringing in Trey Hendrickson. And I do think that Maxx Crosby is a tier above Trey Hendrickson right now, just because Hendrickson didn't play a whole lot over the last year because of his injury. But sorry for the quotes.
Because of his contract.
Yeah. But also Hendrickson, we've seen be absolutely dominant on bad defenses. And now he's going to ostensibly a better defense, one that lacked a lot of pass rush, but he should be able to bring that boost to. Roster-wise, the team is a little bit in a worse position, though, overall, because they did lose Linderbaum. They had lost Isaiah Likely. They lost some key pieces from that team and really haven't brought in a whole lot else to boost them up. So roster-wise, they're probably a little bit worse off, but Harbaugh is gone. Can you tell me right now who the offensive coordinator is?
I actually don't know. I was going to ask you. I was like,
it's Declan Doyle. You know who Declan Doyle is?
No, I was like, no,
Me either. So like, you go from Monken, who is a little bit more notable. People know, obviously, he's your head coach now, but you're losing Harbaugh, you're losing Monken, you're going to a Declan Doyle. And their new head coach obviously was one of the hot names, a hot candidate. And I think he's a good, prospect as a head coach, but we don't know. It's his first go around. So they're definitely in a bit of a rebuild reset. When you have a Lamar Jackson, anything's on the table because people remember the immediacy of last year and it was not good. But he was an MVP quarterback before that. And at least in the conversation pretty much every year. So it's tough. If Lamar turns it on, they're back probably to being where they were before. If things start clicking a little more on defense with Minter, they're back on. But as of right now, big question marks surrounding that Ravens team. And then obviously the front office does look foolish for pulling the rug out from this move. So it probably makes it a little bit more of a difficult destination for people to feel good about going there, and why they haven't made as many free agency signings. But at the end of the day, if they are able to start putting up stuff with Lamar Jackson, all that stuff will get swept under the rug. No one will care.
For sure. Winning cures all. This is the NFL. It always has. If you're good enough, you win enough, they'll let you beat the shit out of your wife.
Hell of a league.
Hell of a league, man.
Hell of a league.
Tell you what. All right, brother. We got a couple other small things to note here, but anything specific that you want to go over?
No, man. Look, I have been relatively off the grid. So other than the big stories that have passed through my phone, I've been way too busy to keep up with all of it.
Understood, man. All right, well, with that said, then let's hop into some prospects because I got a bunch of edges and I do not have a bunch of running backs because my team is not running back needy. My team's not necessarily edge needy, but there were so many edges that I wanted to fucking talk about as I was going through. I was like, okay, I got to do this one. Got to do this one. Got to do this one. I only got 5 running backs, but I got like 9 edges and one big ass sheet that shows arm length. So we're going to talk about some fucking arm length today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Forgive me. Again, I'm being a little bit slow here. I'm working off a laptop and a mouse pad, people. But we're going to go ahead. Well, do you want to start off with that edge group?
Sure. Let's go edge first, and we'll go from there. Let me get it up real quick.
All righty. So, edge defenders here. Starting off, PFF has Rueben Bain Jr. Obviously, the conversation surrounding this guy comes down to that arm length. Didn't do much testing, if any, I believe, at the combine, but he did do his measurements, and they are absolute pterodactyl arms on this guy. Big questions about how much this is going to affect his draft stock. If you look just purely at the film, though, super dominant edge rusher, really good at what he does. Thick build, and part of that is because of that arm length. Kind of makes him look a little bit more stocky. You got to see him a little bit more possibly in person down there at the combine, so I'm interested to get your thoughts on him.
Yeah, man. So he's a football player. He's a dog. I will not take any of that away from him. He's violent at the point of attack, highly productive. Like, he's a really good fucking football player. He is an edge rusher. That is exactly what he's supposed to be. Only problem is that his arms are so goddamn short that I don't know that you can take him now. So I said I had a list, and I'm gonna read it off here. Here's a list of guys in the last decade that have recorded 10 or more sacks in a season, having arms 31.5 inches or shorter. Marcus Golden, 12.5 in 2016, 11 in 2021. He's an edge rusher. More of a hybrid linebacker type, though. Micah Parsons, 14 in 2023. Melvin Ingram, 10.5 in 2017. And that's the fucking list. That's it, guys. Those are the only edge rushers that have recorded double-digit sacks with 31.5 inch or less arms in the last decade. I think he's an excellent football player. His physical measurements are going to hinder his ability to create big sack numbers. He might generate a bunch of pressures, but he's going to have a hard time getting home. It sucks that his arms measured the way they did. I think he's a really good football player. And anybody who sees this after producer Amber makes a clip of this, and they're gonna hear me saying his arms are too short, is gonna bitch. He's a good fucking football player, but sometimes physical attributes just hinder you from what you should be able to do. That's where I'm at on Rueben Bain, man. I think he's an awesome player. Arm length scares the shit out of me. 10 sacks in a season is kind of the mark where you're like, first round, high pick edge rusher. That's the mark I need him to get to. Double-digit sacks. And it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, he's going to be a rarity when it comes to the position. But you look at other sports and things like that. Muggsy Bogues, like height matters in basketball. But you get your Muggsy Bogues every now and then. Rueben Bain Jr., when you put on the film, is just really fucking good at football. So it's tough to weigh that. Usually the film is supposed to be like 80-90% of your evaluation. But when you have such an outlier with that arm length, it's tough to not factor that in. You could look at him and say, okay, this guy, again, stocky build, 6'3", 270. Maybe he fits into more of a 3-tech type of profile, someone who can shift a little more to the inside of the line. But the question still comes into play is that taking away some of his best attributes and what he does best in the game? I would think that maybe a defensive coordinator that is able to kind of become multiple on their fronts and have guys do a lot of different things could scheme around that. But do you want to be scheming around that with a high-end first-round pick? Again, we have PFF up right now, and these rankings haven't changed a ton, but I don't think Rueben Bain's the top edge rusher in this class, despite him being the top on their rankings, simply because of that arm length. My curiosity is where he was 3 months ago slotted as the top edge rusher coming off the board. Now the question, I think, is he going to fall out of the top 10 when it comes to edge rushers? And I think it's absolutely a possibility at this point where you have some of the other guys, some of the other names that are going to be coming up here, and David Bailey and Arvell Reese, who absolutely should be going above Rueben Bain at this point, unless you get a team that falls in love with that film and thinks that they're going to be able to work with that arm length issue.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is you're going to have to find a coach that says that I can use this guy in this fashion despite these things. And that's not everybody who's going to be able to do that. It's not every team that's going to be willing to do that. So like you said, while PFF has him ranked as 5, I don't think that he's going to go anywhere near that high, simply because of the physical outline. And it's like I said before, it's not that he's not a good fucking player, but that shit matters at a certain point. So,
yeah. All right, next up here on this list is David Bailey, someone that we just talked about. Much more prototypical in your size, height, weight, speed, and arm length fashions. The guy is an absolute wrecking ball. I think by far and away, you look at who is the best performing edge rusher coming out of college football on this, just purely right now, not projection on how high their ceiling could be. It's David Bailey. You look at some of the grades that he's put up in recent years, 93.3 from PFF and 90.9. Again, absolutely dominant. He has some question marks about character concerns, off the field stuff, getting into a little bit of scuffles and whatnot. Remember that football is a violent sport. These guys flip a switch. Some of them become 9 when they get out there. But it's still a concern because we just had a guy in James Pierce who may never play football again because of his off the field violence. He wasn't able to turn that switch off, apparently. So the question is going to come down to those character concerns with David Bailey. But you look at the statistics that he's put up, the way that he's performed. By far and away, you look for a plug and play guy in this class. This is your top end performer, probably. Fantastic at pretty much everything, but really, really good as far as a pass rusher off the edge. And it's just going to be, do you think that you want the guy that you know is going to be excellent right now, or do you want to take a chance on someone who has maybe a little bit of a higher ceiling that hasn't been playing as much edge rusher in like an Arvell Reese?
Listen, man, I love David Bailey. Uber productive at Texas Tech. It has room to get better. He's an incredible athlete and had good repertoire of pass rush moves. He does need to get stronger, but I feel like you can kind of say that with every kind of sleight of frame edge rusher. I'll remember to keep writing it because it's just a common thing. There's a lot to like, though, and his fucking long-ass arms, man, are going to make him a tough assignment. The long arm, the long reach, it matters. Being able to keep the tackle off of you or getting the first strike on the lineman, like, is just it makes a huge difference. So David Bailey has everything you want in terms of like the physical makeups. You would like to see him get a little stronger, maybe put on 5 pounds, but he just needs to get in an NFL weight room, and this kid's going to be really fucking good.
Another thing to take note of with David Bailey is that obviously he was outstanding, specifically this last year, but he was on this Red Raiders defense. It was chocked full of really good players. And when you jump up to the NFL, obviously you're going to be surrounded by other top tier talents and stuff like that. But you're not necessarily going to be the alpha out of that group right away. And he very well could be going to a team like the Jets, where maybe he is the best talent out there off the rip, and now you don't have the same sort of talent playing alongside you. And oh, by the way, the other side of the ball on offense is a hell of a lot better than what he was facing in college. So it's something to take note of. He was playing on an outstanding team. A lot of pressure was taken off of his shoulders, and he was just able to go out there and ball out. So there could be a little bit of a learning curve for sure, but that's going to be with every single one of these guys that we're talking about today and in future draft prospect series. The level completely changes. But to me, he's the safest when it comes to edge rushers, especially when you don't factor anything like off the field concerns.
Yeah, just pure physical football player. That's the best edge rusher. I would agree.
Yep. All right. Next up here, they have Akheem Mesidor. We will jump to Arvell Reese because he's technically in the linebacker spot, so I'm not going to forget him. But Akheem Mesidor, or as the NFL Stock Exchange guys like to call him, the Akheem Leather Helmet Mesidor, the guy is going to be 25 years old here in his first year in the NFL, which is ancient for a football player. It seems like coming into the draft.
44.9 years old.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for that age, if he was the same age as his running mate there down in Miami, I feel like this guy probably would be right there, number 1, 2 top edge rusher in this class. You watch him, he jumps off the tape. Fantastic defensive end, and you don't have to worry about the measurables as much. The one measurable is that age, and that's going to drop him a little bit, because people are looking at him, not because they don't think that he can't come in and produce right away. These guys who are older, they are more developed. They're going to be able to fit into an NFL locker room quicker. They're going to get onto the field and produce quicker, typically. The problem is, if he's a first-round pick, you're getting the 4 years plus a fifth-year option. And then that guy's 30 years old, which is usually the age cliff. So you're talking about an Akheem Mesidor. Are you really going to get utilization out of him into a second contract? Defensive ends, you can see them playing into their early 30s, but you are talking about now limiting this guy's career down, or your usage of him in the career, to possibly one contract, which is going to be the concern. He's a perfect type of player that's a plug-and-play guy. Again, I rank him up there with the David Baileys, the Rueben Bains, as far as his ability to get onto the field and immediately produce. It's just, is your team ready to win right now, where you are in that 5-year window time frame? I think is how a lot of people have to look at this, because you are only getting that one contract out of the guy. You can probably get 2, but still you're looking at diminishing results quickly into that second contract potentially.
Yeah, for sure. So man, we're gonna sound like an echo a little bit here. Highly productive. Man, let's try that again. Another highly productive pass rusher from the Miami Hurricanes. He's a good football player. And he's a football player through and through, just like his teammate Bain. Wins with effort and good hand usage, good speed to power, and shows up well in the run despite his lack of size. The big worry is his age. The 25-year-old rookie is not unheard of in the COVID era, but typically we're talking about quarterbacks who can play till they're 75, like Phillip Rivers. A 25-year-old edge will scare teams away because he may already be at that physical ceiling. That's one of the things that when you're talking about first round picks, you're projecting traits a lot of times. And his traits are probably already set. He is probably where he's going to be the majority of his career. He will get a little bit stronger. He will get, in a little bit better shape because he is moving to the NFL. Things are a little bit higher there. But, like, when it all comes down to it, if you can't get those multiple contracts, if you can't, get at least a second contract, it's really hard to devote a first round pick to that. So while I think he's a good player and is talented enough to go in the first round and even higher in the first round than what he was ranked there, he will get knocked down because of the age.
Yeah, I think that Wow. Again, if the age, if he was 23 years old, we're talking about a top 10 pick type of cow. I'm sorry. I had my mic
I was
up.
wondering, I was like, man, your mic sounds
Real
different.
quiet.
You sounded far away.
I'm getting through this drink, and I'm trying not to have you guys hear the rattle of my ice here. But if he was 23 years old, I truly think that he's looked at as a top 15 prospect in this class, going in those top 15 picks. Because of this, though, and this draft class kind of being weaker, like every year we fall in love with the draft class, and there's a lot of guys in this class I do love throughout all the rounds. But taking a step back, it is still a weaker class in a lot of areas, especially in some very important areas like quarterback. This guy, because of his age, isn't a first round pick. In other years, if he was 23 years old, he would probably be a first round pick. And that being said, I still see him going there in the first round. It's probably going to be a late first round, though. And it's probably why a team like the Denver Broncos is like, weaker class, we're willing to give up that first round pick, number 30 overall, to go get a guy who we know can produce right now, because we are looking at a window where we're already making it deep in the playoffs. So we can use this. A team that needs an edge rusher towards the back end, pick 25 and later, like the Bills, they could go out there, get this guy, plug and play real quick, and get that utilization out of him, because they're not sure how long their window is going to be open for. It's been open for a little bit, and they're still trying to keep it open, but we don't know if it's going to stay open that long. So getting a guy who can kind of come in, plug and play, even if, again, like you said, traits are what they're looking for with these first round picks, and they're probably set for this guy. You're probably not going to milk a whole lot more out of him other than what you're already seeing. So get a good 4 or 5 years out of him if you think that you're in your window, which is what a lot of those late first round teams are looking at. Otherwise, I don't see him lasting. If he gets into the second, I don't see him lasting long at all.
Yeah, no, he will go very high at the fucking top of the second if he makes it to that point.
Yeah.
Hop on Arvell?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be remiss to not talk about Arvell Reese. Obviously, he's kind of 1A, 1B, depending on what type of style player you're looking for. Arvell Reese, a little bit more that off-ball guy. He played inside backer, off-ball linebacker at Ohio State. Started to play a little bit more towards the edge this year, but he's the guy that projects much like Abdul Carter last year. Physical freak, has a little bit of edge in him, and that's where most people see him kind of slotting in the NFL, is more of that edge rusher type. Again, athletic freak, absolutely a game changer if he's able to develop correctly. I kind of feel like, and they are not the same players at all, but you look back to a draft a couple years ago with Aiden Hutchinson. He was like your prototypical defensive end edge rusher. You knew what you were getting out of him. But then a name started to creep in there, and he ended up going to the Jacksonville Jaguars and became the first overall pick in that class. You know who I'm talking about?
Maybe.
I can't think of his name. That's why I'm asking. I was hoping you were going to throw me a rope there.
All right, hold on. All right. Let's do this one more time. Rewind. Give it to me one more time.
First overall pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the same class as Aiden Hutchinson.
Davis. Jordan Davis.
No.
Nope, that's Eagles. God damn it. What is his name?
I'm getting on the phone.
It's so hard to keep track of everybody.
Oh, it's even more hard, dude, when you're fucking drinking. Trayvon Walker.
Thank you. That's
Trayvon Walker. Anyways, Trayvon Walker was an athletic freak, height, weight, speed guy. Didn't have the production in college, but I feel like Trayvon Walker got talked up a lot and ended up being that first overall pick by the Jaguars. And Trayvon Walker has turned into a good player. I don't know about 1-1 type of good player, but he's turned into a really solid above average contributor on his team. And he never really hit that peak because there was a lot of projection with that guy. Arvell Reese is that same, to me, sort of projection guy, because he's a height, weight, speed freak, but he didn't have the same sort of production as a guy like a David Bailey did in college. Now, Arvell Reese also on an extremely good Ohio State defense, but he wasn't playing pure edge rusher the whole time. So it's a little bit more projection with an Arvell Reese, just like an Abdul Carter. It's a guy who's transitioning to edge. The good thing about Arvell Reese, though, is you are talking about a guy that does know how to play multiple positions. So if you get one of those defenses that likes to move people around, hybrid, multiplier, Arvell Reese is your guy. To me, David Bailey, if you're just looking for that pure edge rusher, is the guy that you're wanting to go for. If you're trying to shoot for the moon, Arvell Reese doesn't necessarily have Micah Parsons upside, but we're in the conversation of getting close to that.
So I think Arvell is a fucking stud. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of his. I want to make sure I say that again for everybody who catches one of these clips later. A huge fan of Arvell Reese's. There are certain things about Arvell Reese that you love. There are certain things that you don't love. You look at the coverage grade there. That's one of them. But like, he is a guy that you are not 100% sure where he should play. I am a firm believer, like you said at the beginning, that he should be a fucking edge. So here's my write-up. I got another athletic freak from Ohio State who can play all over the field, but I would make this guy an edge and call it a day. At Ohio State, he played all over and was effective from multiple levels. He is best when he is rushing the passer and and he can still get bigger too because he is very lean for an edge, but he has the athleticism to carry the extra weight. He needs to get stronger and also got worked by Maui Noah in the college football playoff, but he had a 1.58 10-yard split. That's insanely explosive for a fucking edge rusher at 6'4", 243. That's unheard of. So you get this kid in the right system, he's going to be an absolute weapon. And Evo, do me one favor real quick. You had his stats up there, or it might have been the trends. Stats. So you see those pass rush snaps? He had 119 pass rush snaps. 8 fucking sacks. That's a pretty goddamn good conversion rate as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
So you give me Arvell Reese rushing the passer, I love it. I don't necessarily want him dropping in the coverage. I think you just turn him into an edge.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's the same thing with again, I don't think that they're the same player, but I think that we could start talking the same wheelhouse if he starts to hit his peak potential as a Micah Parsons.
Sure.
Where Micah Parsons can play all over the field, but Micah Parsons isn't a great coverage linebacker either.
He's going forward.
Yeah. So you're looking at the same sort of thing with Arvell Reese. He's a very underdeveloped edge rusher because it hasn't been his primary duty there in college. Despite that, extremely productive with it. So you have a lot of development that still needs to happen for the NFL game. Pass rush moves that need to be learned. One interesting anecdote, though, that I did hear from former players and agents is that sometimes these guys, like an Abdul Carter last year, like a Travis Hunter last year, who play multiple different positions. And yes, it's even worse with a Travis Hunter because it's two different sides of the ball. You're talking about 2 separate positional group rooms that this guy could be a part of. If a team grabs him and wants to say, hey, he's going to play edge rusher primarily, but we're also going to be mixing him in at linebacker, much like a Micah Parsons, it makes things a lot more difficult, especially for that young guy. They kind of need to devote what he's going to do from the rip. If he goes to the Titans or the Jets, which are the 2 primary landing spots that get talked about quite a bit, they need to say this guy is an edge rusher from day one, and I think you and I are both on the same page there, and develop him as an edge rusher. It's not like he's going to drop off the face of a map as how to play linebacker. But you need to have him in the edge rush room working with those coaches in order to develop in that aspect. But when you start to split the guy between multiple places, you're talking about a sponge that's getting completely filled with water just at one position group. And now you're trying to have him go into multiple meetings, multiple different rooms at multiple different times a day and succeed at both of them. It's extremely difficult. And it's something that I don't think we talked about enough with Travis Hunter last year. Now, Travis Hunter's season got cut short because of injury, but I bet you that it was a lot for him to take in to try to learn both offense and defense. And even though it's the same side of the ball, it's 2 separate positions played very differently on an NFL roster. So something to keep in mind with Arvell Reese is if you take him, you should be devoted towards the position that he's going to play. And the most impactful position is edge rusher. The one that you can probably milk the most out of him is edge rusher. And it might take a little bit longer because he's not fully developed. But if you are able to fully develop him with the type of skill set that you see from him, we are, again, getting into that Micah Parsons type conversation.
Absolutely, man. I'm right there with you on it. So I'm ready to move on to the next one, brother, because that takes care of kind of like our premier guys, I feel like.
Yeah. Who do you want to talk about next year? Because we do have these guys like
you know what? Keldric Faulk, man. We can go right into Keldric Faulk.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Do you want to go first? You want me to go?
You send it, man. I got to pull up my notes.
All right. So Keldric Faulk, long edge defender that can use his insanely long arms to keep linemen's hands off and wins with speed and violence. Really good hand uses, and he can get bigger. I know that he is huge, right? He's 6'6", 273, but he can get bigger because he's 6'6". And he's got 34 and 3/8-inch arms. He has got space to put some fucking weight on. So, like, he can be really, really good. He's just, I feel like he's still a little bit raw. This is another height, weight, speed guy that you project like, God damn, imagine what he could do if and when he puts it all together. I like this kid. I don't know that he screams first round pick to me, but we were talking about traits earlier. This kid's got him by spades.
Yeah, look, he is a big traditional defensive end. Definitely a little bit better in the run game than he is in the pass game. He also, let me pull up his age here for you real quick. Another guy who's extremely young. So we've got a lot more room to develop as a pass rusher. The one thing that gets kind of noted about him is he's a high character guy. He's a lunchbox guy that's going to come in there, blue collar, work his ass off. He might never be the 15 sack guy that you would be hoping to get there in the first round. He is going to be kind of that perennial set him, forget him starter who's going to definitely help you in the run game, and you absolutely could develop him into a pass rusher if you're getting him in that NFL room devoted to pass rushing. So he might not be that big name guy making all of the Pro Bowls because of sack numbers or something like that, which sucks a little bit because he is so good at what he does with the run game and setting that edge. It's just when you're talking about first round players, usually you do want that pass rush upside. That's what gets guys paid.
And that's the thing is, like, over this last year, numbers not good, but he has shown 2 years ago that he can be productive as a pass rusher. I mean, so it's not as consistent, yes, but when you talk about it, he is super young and super physically gifted.
Well, that's his pass rush win rate, 11.6%, is pretty damn solid. I liken this guy to a little bit of a thicker version of a Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter was not productive at all in college, but was good against the run. And then he gets to the NFL, and you look, he just signed another $40 million extension for 1 year there with the Texans. He's been absolutely phenomenal. And Danielle Hunter gets in the backfield. He creates a shitload of pressures, and he gets a lot of sacks. It might have not been his thing at Auburn there, but it absolutely can be his thing at the pro level if he develops correctly. And you're talking about a guy that is super young, not even 21 years old yet. So he's someone that I would take that bet on towards the end of the first round.
All right. Where are we going next, brother?
You tell me, man. You want to talk about Cashius Howell? Because I think he's kind of one of those guys that he was talked about pretty highly early on and has fallen off a little bit.
Well, that is for a reason, and I will talk about it and bring up my chart yet again. So Cashius Howell, another highly productive pass rusher with wicked short arms, an explosive athlete, and his burst gets him easy wins. Only you'll have to find ways to work around tackles with his 30 1/4 inch arms. He's also only 6'2.5" and weighs 253 pounds. So he is not your ideal size for an NFL edge rusher. He wasn't necessarily great against the run, but he is a capable pass rusher, like very capable pass rusher. And I think would be really good as a rotational pass rusher in the right system. So PFF has him ranked here at 26. You could see him later at the end of the first round. I don't think he'll be a first round pick. You probably see him somewhere in the second round because of how short the arms were. But he is an incredibly explosive athlete. Now, I'm going to bring up the arm length one more time. I asked you about guys that had 10 sacks. All right, I'm going to add some names. We're going to take the number down to 5 sacks. Guys that had 5 or more fucking sacks with 30.5-inch arms. All right, we got Dean Lowry, an interior defensive lineman, 2021. He had 5. Nick Herbig, he had 7.5 as an edge rusher. James Houston had 8. And then Shaq Lawson had 6.5. And that's the end of the fucking list. So there are only 7 guys that have got 5 or more sacks having arms that short. And there's 3 guys that have got double digits. So while I like Cassius Howell as a player, he was a really good college football player. He will have to go to a really good system that will know how to use him as a rotational pass rusher because the physical disadvantages are going to be really bad, just like I talked about before with Bain.
You know, you said earlier that you were going to echo me on some stuff, and I'm going to do the same thing. A name I was going to bring up is Nick Herbig. And I was also going to say, like his game, but I don't see first-round player. He was a guy who was talked about very early on in the process as being one of those first-round defensive ends. But as we've gotten deeper into the process here, things have kind of soured a little bit, except for the people who still recognize the name. Great name, by the way, Cassius Howell. I like it. That's a good football player name. But
good hair too, by the way, dude.
But this is the thing: is that Nick Herbig is a good player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not an every down player. And that's not something that you're looking at in the first round. So look, not to knock the guy and say like, oh, we're only talking about first round guys, because we absolutely are not only talking about first round guys here. This is a guy that I see as being that second or even third round. Like I could see a Cassius Howell making it to the third round because I think that he's going to be a continual piece to an NFL defense. But if you're putting him out there every single play, you are seeing diminishing returns because of some of the physical limitations on his size. He is good as a designated pass rusher. He brings a little bit more to you than just a pure designated pass rusher in the run game. So if you are forced to have him be one of your 11 starters on defense, you're not feeling terrible about it. And that's what keeps him in that second to third round range. But by no means do I think that this guy even kind of ekes into the first round unless you look at him 3 months ago and where he was kind of ranked at. And that's not how NFL teams do it. He has got a hell of a pass rush win rate. Bring that up here again, 19.9%. It's what the guy does, right? He is able to make stuff happen. But that's a guy that you put out there on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and let him go hunt. It's not an every down type of guy.
It's not, man. And listen, this is not shade to Cassius Howell. I think he's going to be a very productive pro. But I can't use a first-round pick. I can't have PFF ranked 26 saying, okay, yeah, this is one of my top 32 guys. I couldn't do it.
That goes to this class, though.
Yeah. Yes. This class is got what we talked about 3, 4 maybe blue chip guys. You got 20 first rounders, maybe.
Not even. Yeah. We're 15-ish, maybe.
Yeah. I'm trying to be nice, man. I'm trying to give out some better numbers. Yeah. I'm trying to not be so negative anymore.
Well, let's take a second to talk about TJ Parker here, who's going to be interesting because we're going to have some thoughts on him. Obviously, you got to talk to him individually there at the Senior Bowl. Guy's got a veteran family. We feel a little bit tied to him. And then we talk about him to our guy, Jeremy Green, who is also ready, piping hot, ready to go and love him. And then we start hearing some stuff about some effort issues and things like that. Now, he showed up pretty well at the combine, but the tape doesn't necessarily match at all. Do you think Jeremy's on point with his thoughts on this guy, where he doesn't necessarily seem as motivated as he could be? Or was it he's on this Clemson defense with a bunch of other guys that are pretty good and is able to kind of coast by? Is that going to still be the case in the NFL? What are your thoughts on him?
I think that he's a talented player that had success and maybe sat back on his laurels a little bit, because what didn't necessarily progress is his pass rush moves. And I think that's one of the problems that I have with him, is that he has to kind of win in one way. If he doesn't win with power, it's all over. And he kind of stops. So maybe that's part of the effort thing that Jeremy's talking about. I don't know TJ Parker. I'm not at practice. And I don't know what's in his head. But I can tell you that from the times that I have watched him and the things that I have been able to find, it's power or nothing. And I think that once teams started to figure that out a little bit, we see that dip in the sack numbers. So here's what I got on him. I had a huge dip in production in terms of the sacks, but did a good job in the run game and set the edge well. Really good with his hands and longer arms. Pretty limited pass rush moves at this point. Wins with power, he doesn't win. Needs to develop some variance to what he's doing, or a good NFL tackle will just stuff him. There's got to be more to it. He's got to develop a repertoire. I think that's part of where it comes to.
I got to say, I am a little bit more scared by TJ Parker the more I kind of look into him. Clemson has had this thing in recent years where guys will come out of there really productive, and then they become an average dude on an NFL defense. Not great, not necessarily bad, but nothing special, and definitely not worth the pick that they're usually taken at. TJ Parker's coming out of college with middling stats from Clemson, not even like really great stats. And is that going to put him a rung or a tier below the other guys that in the past have been kind of coming out of Clemson? I'm worried about that for him, that he's going to come in, probably be a second round pick for somebody, and end up just kind of being a jag, and not a jag in a bad way, but he's not going, like, he'll be a consistent starter on a team, but he's not going to be someone that's out there earning a big second contract as someone who can actually be a difference maker on a defense. Part of that is because, like you said, it is just power for him. It's not pass rush wins via moves and stuff like that. He hasn't built up that. So he's going to have to go to the right spot that can develop him correctly. But also, some of that's going to take that personal devotion to it. And we don't know him. We would like to think that he would be willing to put into hard work and develop that. But that's all individually based. And that's something that, again, we're talking about a TJ Parker he's talked about as a first round pick 3 months ago. Now, not so much. Now he's more in that second round range. But a lot of that's based off potential.
Yeah, and I think that that's part of the problem, though, is that his numbers at the combine were okay. And you saw a lot of other dudes at the combine go ape shit in their testing numbers. So you see all these really explosive athletes. Then you see TJ Parker, who's an okay athlete, strong guy, wins with power. But then you see all these other guys that, man, I could project so much more. How much can I add to this guy? How much can I put on him to make him stronger while maintaining the speed? And I think that's part of the thing that's going to drive TJ Parker down. Like you said, we don't know. We don't personally know this guy. I'm rooting for him, obviously. I hope he has an excellent career, but he needs to develop a lot more as a pass rusher. So that's where I'm at on him.
All right, man. What other edge rushers do you want to talk about in this class? Because obviously we've got some here. Zion Young, who's got some interest. Some people talked about him being a first-round guy. Mason Thomas. I know Jeremy Green loves this dude. Definitely more of a designated pass rush type of guy, though, because he's a little bit more light in the pants. But these are guys that are being talked about as maybe very fringe, especially when it comes to Mason Thomas as far as first-round potential, but mostly guys who are fitting into late first or probably the early second round.
So I have a write-up on Zion Young, and I also have one. Let's see what else I have in here. My only other one that we haven't talked about would be Dennis-Sutton.
Okay. Well, go ahead and tell me about Zion Young, and I'll talk about a couple other dudes here in a
All right,
moment.
so Zion Young, long edge rusher who does a really good job in the run game, but needs to develop as a pass rusher still. Not nearly as good as an athlete as Jadeveon Clowney was, but they have a very similar type game. Would benefit from a rotation and learning behind some seasoned pass rushers, but can contribute right away on early downs. His sack numbers drastically improved this year. I don't know that he's going to be that guy all the fucking time, though. Like, he's really good in the run game. Really, really good in the run game. And now we saw a pop out of him in the sack numbers. He's got, some really good measurables that can project to be a really good pass rusher. But I still think that there's a lot of room for improvement with his pass rush game. But this is a guy, like we've talked about earlier, the guys that can set the edge and you don't have to fucking worry about him at all. Zion Young can absolutely be one of those guys. You can set him across from a really premier pass rusher, and he's going to be your bookend.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, dang it.
Oh, no.
I clicked too much.
Too many clickies.
Again, working off of actually the wife's computer here.
Thank you to your wife.
All right, here. Oh, interesting. Kind of look.
Now it changed.
Okay. Well, we'll be able to still see the player here, I hope, when we. Yeah. Okay. Right. This probably makes it a little bit easier here to kind of look through some of these. All right. So Zion Young, another guy that I like. R. Mason Thomas, I do see him as more that designated pass rush type. Someone who I think's top end is, and forgive me for relating this to Vikings players, but I could see him being a little more of a Jonathan Grenard, where he's a better designated pass rusher, but he's a guy that could kind of fill into more of that off-ball edge linebacker, if that makes any sense, where he's got a little bit of ability to be in coverage, but you kind of want him to be mostly a pass rusher. Anything on Malachi Lawrence from you?
I don't have anything on Malachi Lawrence.
He's a guy that I think is going to be he's underrated in this class to me. Good height, weight, speed guy. He fits into more of that designated pass rusher, but I do think that he is still lacking a couple pounds of muscle that he will be putting on in this NFL weight room, and could end up being probably like a top 5 edge rusher if he hits his peak from this class. Someone that I do think has some pretty high potential. Obviously, look at the run defense grade, not fantastic from him here. But if he had A, being at a better school than UCF, and B, packed on another like 10 pounds, I think we'd actually be talking about him a little bit more as a first round guy. And through the bowls this year, he actually showed out really well. I believe it was the Hula Bowl or the Shrine Bowl. He showed out really well there. Derrick Moore, a guy that showed up really well at the Senior Bowl for you, had a whole bunch of notable clips and stuff like that out there. And then the one other guy that I wanted to talk about was Jaishawn Barham. I think that he's also a guy that's kind of criminally underrated. I think that he should be going in more like the late second, third round as far as players. You got anything on Jaishawn Barham?
I did not do a write-up on this one as well.
All right. This guy makes me think, like, if you watch his film, he looks weird when he's coming off the edge, kind of clunky, but it works, if that makes sense, because I don't think that he's your traditional pass rusher. He reminds me of an Andrew Van Ginkel, where Gink is good rushing and creating pressures. He's not going out there and getting tons of sacks, though. Like, he's the guy that's meant to go in there as more of the disruptor that's going to mess the quarterback up and cause other plays to happen. And then he's also pretty solid in the run game. So he's not going to be giving you those gaudy stats as far as sack numbers, but everyone loves sacks. People don't pay attention to the pressure rate and the pressures as much, and you probably should with some of these guys that aren't going to be looked at as first-round picks, because that sort of disruption leads to really good things happening on your defense, something that I am very familiar with now with a guy like an Andrew Van Ginkel, who's able to go out there and get those sacks and interceptions and kind of almost read the quarterback's minds with things. Like I said, if you get a chance, watch him, you'll notice his pass rush style is kind of weird. It looks clunky because I think that he is dissecting what's going on while he's in the middle of that pass rush, more avoiding the guys who are trying to block him rather than use moves on them, because he's more focused on that quarterback and knowing that I'm probably not getting home, but I'm about to disrupt this play, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
All right. Who else did you have for me here?
I had Dani Dennis-Sutton was my last one.
All
He's
right.
up, actually.
There we go.
All right, so I like Dani Dennis-Sutton as well, but he's not necessarily going to, I think, wow you with huge sack numbers at the NFL either. Good athleticism, lacks pass rush repertoire, but is also really, really fucking good in the run game, sheds blocks well. You would like to see him be a little bit more under control at times, and I think he will end up being a much better player. But at times, he just kind of overruns the quarterback. The arc, he just takes way too high of an arc. But because he's like uber athletic and, you know, he's got a decent size, he's like not too big. I think he could be a fucking like a special teamer. Like, he is a guy that you can line up and go out there and he will go out and make it. It's with the new fucking special team, the new kickoff rule. Like, he is a guy that's perfectly suited for that because he is able to move pretty well. He understands run fits and like that. That's just one big long ass run play. So I think that he's going to be a later round pick in my opinion, probably third, fourth round. But I think that if you are looking for a specific guy that you could develop into maybe a little bit more of a pass rusher, but really good at stopping the run right away, this is another guy you could look at.
All righty. If there's no other edge defenders, we can go and jump onto the running backs, though.
I'm ready for running backs.
All right, cool. So this one might end up being a little bit shorter for us here because, like you said, like this is, I will admit, not the best of running back class. There's some guys, though, outside of Jeremiyah Love that I think have some interesting traits and capabilities at the running back position. I'll probably have a little bit more on them possibly than you, just because I've been focusing on them a little bit more. Some of the guys, and it's not a huge list, but some of these guys do excite me. So let's just go ahead, break into it. Jeremiyah Love, blue chip prospect. Probably not a whole lot bad to say about this guy.
No, my write-up literally starts with the word bruh. This dude is incredible. He looks way bigger than he's listed. He has excellent start-stop. He knows how to use tempo and change pace in and out of the hole. His cuts are on a dime. He has incredible out of the backfield catching the ball. He will be a workhorse from day one for whichever team he goes to. He even improved his pass blocking this year, which was one of the knocks on him last year. My only intrigue with him is what is his usage going to look like when he gets to the NFL? Is he going to be an Alvin Kamara type where he's maybe not getting a ton of carries and splitting more time catching it out of the backfield? Or is he going to be a dude that goes over 1,000 yards rushing every year and sprinkles in 500, 600, 700 yards receiving? That's my only quandary with Jeremiyah Love is how exactly is the NFL team going to use him? Because he can fucking do it all.
Yeah, man. Look, the thing with Jeremiyah Love is you look at him and he looks kind of slight in his frame, despite being 6 foot, like 215.
Bro, I'm telling you, he's so big in person. But I'm also only 5'7". So
yeah, he is muscled up. I don't think that he needs to add more or anything like that. He is Reggie Bush in the correct time frame. Like he's Jahmyr Gibbs. That those comps get thrown around a lot, but it's because they make a whole lot of sense. Alvin Kamara also is something that gets brought up with him a lot, except for Alvin Kamara, while he's decent in the run game, got used so much more in the pass game. Jeremiyah Love, if you look at his numbers there, only 280 receiving yards on 27 receptions. And only one of those out of the 34 targets that he had was a drop. So he's a very good receiver, but he wasn't used in the receiving game as much as he probably could have been or should have been. I think the guy can be a 1,000-yard rusher, not just because like he doesn't bounce off people like an Ashton GT. He's slippery where the guys will get hands on him, but they aren't making the tackle. And he's so fast. He's very elusive. And he is that explosive home run hitter on any time he gets his hands on the ball. And if he starts receiving the ball more, he has some really good receiving abilities. I put him higher than I had Ashton Genty last year. I think that he is a top 5 player in this class. If positional value wasn't a factor, and if running backs weren't viewed how they're viewed, where it's kind of dime a dozen, or you can go to a guy who's a lower level prospect and not see that much of a division between him and the top level guys, Jeremiyah Love to me is probably in the top 2 players in this class. He's a phenomenal prospect, blue chip guy, has the potential to hit all those peak numbers that we're talking about of a Reggie Bush, of a Jahmyr Gibbs, something like that, where he is a weapon no matter what he's doing on the field. So it saddens me to know that my Vikings probably won't get a chance at him unless we trade up, but he's going to be a boon for some team that is willing to overlook the running back stuff and just take a guy who's going to be explosive for your team.
Yeah, man. Like he's incredible. He's going to be still 20 when he's drafted. Like everything that you want in a running back, you have in Jeremiyah Love. So.
Yep. And then you have his running mate there, traditionally seen as the second running back in this class. Some people will argue about that. I do like him as the second or third best back in this class, Jadarian Price. How much of Jadarian Price and it being discounted was the fact that he was sitting behind a Jeremiyah Love? Because look, Jeremiyah Love, again, by far and away the best in this class. Jadarian Price might kind of be that diamond in the rough, though, just because he did not get the usage. I think he's a fantastic back as well.
Yeah, I like him as well. So you said running mate. It's like, Jesus Christ, did you read my fucking notes? Love's running mate and dynamic player in his own right. Let's start with the return ability. He had 3 kick returns, and with the new NFL kickoff and his vision and return ability, he could be a dangerous fucking weapon, dude. Now, as a runner, he's pretty good, makes quick, decisive cuts, and gets upfield to get his yards quick. He did have a bit of a fumble problem, but I think that is one of those things that does get worked out a little bit at the NFL. My question is, can he catch it out of the backfield? I mean, Jeremiyah Love got the majority of that. So how good can this guy be catching the ball out of the backfield? He didn't have the opportunity. So I think there's a lot of question marks about what can he do, what can't he do. I think he's a good player, but a lot of this is going to be a projection. Where do we think that he can get to? Because you see, like, he had 7 fucking targets. You don't really know much anything on that.
That's the thing with Jadarian Price, is the little bit we saw him on the field on offense was pretty damn good, but he wasn't used in the receiving game, so you don't know exactly what he has there. I project a lot based off of that kick return capability, and we did see him be absolutely explosive in the kick return. His combine numbers weren't explosive off the charts or anything like that, but I think that this is a guy who is a little bit more, I don't want to call him traditional running back compared to a Jeremiyah Love, but he's the guy that's a little bit more of a slasher. He can bounce off of tackles a little bit more rather than be slippery. And we just didn't get to see what he's fully capable of. Look, only 113 rushing attempts. That's pretty damn low mileage for a guy. But he still was able to put up really good touchdown numbers, so you know he's good within that goal line area. Again, he's kind of able to bounce off of some of those tackles rather than slip by them. I think that the receiving ability is still going to be there. We just didn't get to see it because Jeremiyah Love's your workhorse there. It's obvious. I think the guy's got like Eddie George to him a little bit if we saw him out there on the field more. A guy who I think is going to be able to be a full-time 3-down back in the NFL. A lot of that ends up being projection because you didn't get to see it at the college level.
Yeah, man. Very, very similar. Like, I think he's a good player. I just don't know how good yet because he didn't get a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
You're playing behind potentially the best player in the fucking draft. That's going to happen.
Yeah. All right, a guy I know that we're both excited to talk about here, Mike Washington Jr., the dude that absolutely blew up the combine, looked really good at the Senior Bowl. A thick boy here, 6'2", 228. He's not Derrick Henry, but the guy is, he's a load to handle for sure. So give me your thoughts here on Mike Washington Jr.
I didn't actually know who the fuck Mike Washington Jr. was until I went down the Mobile. And then I was like, who the fuck is that guy? Because he was the only running back of note for the entire time. That's actually exactly the way I started this. So he showed a burst during practices and didn't see that you didn't see everywhere. He's also pretty goddamn big. He finishes his runs well. Also very low carry load, which makes him a very exciting option. He had spent 5 years in college and is still only going to be 22. That same age as Jadarian Price. So he still has all of his prime. Average production for somebody of all of his measurables and everything that we see there. But he played for Arkansas. If you were unaware, Arkansas was dog shit. They went 2-10 last year. They were fucking terrible. They got slaughtered in the SEC. So Mike Washington going over 1,000 yards, 6.5 yards per carry almost, is still pretty goddamn impressive. I think he has the potential to be one of those steals, breakout type players, and even could sneak into the back end of the first round, kind of like a Jahmyr Gibbs did a few years ago. The projection here is just so high, and with all the physical stuff that happened at the combine, somebody is going to clamor to go and get this guy.
Yeah. If you look at his numbers, if you were to project out his total rushing attempts to his yards and touchdowns, in addition to the combine numbers that he put up, they are kind of eerily similar to Adrian Peterson. And that's a huge name to talk about. But the guy's got the height, weight, speed of an Adrian Peterson. And again, if you project these numbers out that he has, they're not that dissimilar to an Adrian Peterson, except for Adrian Peterson was not a good receiver. And then if you look at these reception numbers compared to that of a guy that we just talked about a minute ago, and Jeremiyah Love, again, pretty similar. Mike Washington Jr. and Jeremiyah Love are not the same player by any means. He is not the elusive guy. He is a little bit more of a bruiser. The speed that we did see straight line from him at the combine, I don't see show up on tape. I see good speed. I see NFL speed, but I don't see that breakaway speed. So I think that's one of those situations where the speed that we're seeing in the 40-yard dash is not the same, but it is still surprising speed for a guy who, again, if we look at this, 6'2", 228. So that's pretty crazy for a guy his size. I think that he does have the ability to be a full-time back there. I need to see him better as a pass blocker, but he's got reception ability and he can definitely pound the rock. I think that he is firmly planted in there as a second-round pick in this class from what we've seen from him.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no way he gets past the second round. With all of the measurables, somebody's going to go ahead and take him. And then if you want, man, we can go right into the Jonah Coleman, because I also have a Jonah Coleman write-up. It's a little shorter than some of my other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jonah Coleman is a little dude, man. So who ordered the?
Well, he's shorter.
He's shorter. Okay. Who ordered the Maurice? Dude. Who ordered the Maurice Jones-Drew clone?
Yeah.
Because that's the comp. That's the comp you're going to get every single time from probably every person that talks about this guy. You're not going to get it?
Nope. I have a different one.
Okay.
Same kind of era.
All right. So he's a compact runner who is good between the tackles. He catches it well too. But the athleticism isn't necessarily great on tape, and we don't have his testing numbers yet. He hasn't really done anything in terms of testing. So I'm intrigued to see what he does at his pro day. That's going to tell me a lot.
He didn't test. He didn't test at the pro day.
When was his pro day?
I believe it was in the past 48 hours.
Okay. Well, that's not great.
He didn't do like 40s and stuff like that.
I don't love that. I don't know that it matters, but I think there's probably a little bit of a reason why you don't do those tests. I think he's a good back, played really well, production up and down, shitloads of touchdowns, can catch it out of the fucking backfield, obviously. So, like, there's not a lot to hate about his game. It's just, he's a running back. You worry about some of the projections. Is he super athletic? Is he a game breaker? Or is he just a guy like a Tyler Algier who shows up and does his job and cashes a check? There's nothing wrong with that. But is Jonah Coleman a game breaker? I don't know. I'm excited to hear your comp because Maurice Jones-Drew's got to be. I thought that was going to be everybody's comp.
I mean, I get it because of the height. I see more Marshawn Lynch in this guy.
Ooh, I mean that's a great fucking.
This is probably going to sound a little bit bad, but I think he's got thug in him, man. I think he's got a little bit of a badass, braggadocious type of dude to him. Look at this game right here. Now, do you know which school this is? On top of your head?
Cal Austin? I don't know.
UC Davis.
UC Davis.
Okay. Yeah. I think he had 5 touchdowns in this game, which is why it was rated so high. And that does kind of affect his touchdown numbers here, except for a couple of them receiving. He had a monster game, like 300, 400 yards against them, total yards, and 5 touchdowns. Absolutely obliterated them. The guy reminds me of a Marshawn Lynch, the way that he pops and spins and rolls off of people. I think that when we're looking at this guy, he probably isn't going to have the good testing measurables, but he's the guy that does produce on the field. Really good hands as a receiver. He is short, but he's thick and well built. Pops off of those people. I think he's the best pass protector in this class at running back as well, which is a big thing. And he's got elite ball security. Holds onto that ball through all the contact because he's not the elusive type. He's not the type that's going to be shifting away from people. I like him.
Bowling ball, dog.
Yeah, like he does have a little bit of that bowling ball build, but I always feel like the bowling ball guys are more akin to a fullback, where I still think that he is not going to have the top end speed, but he is jukey. He does have that kind of short area quickness to bounce around stuff and cut into holes. A guy that I really like in this class, second, third round pick, probably more of a third round pick, who I do think, because of his pass catching and pass protecting abilities, is a true 3-down back in this class, which you don't have a ton of them. I think both Jeremiyah Love, Jadarian Price, and Mike Washington can be 3-down backs in this class. But beyond that, it's not seen that way through this class. I think Jonah Coleman is one of those guys, though.
I mean, I like him. I like him a lot. And I have one more running back. However, the running back I have on my board, the list, is not a running back.
All right. I know who you're talking about. I'll go through real quick here.
You're going to stop at Emmett?
And talk about I'll scroll through here and just say a couple pieces real quick. Emmett Johnson is one of them for sure. A local guy for me. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Did not play for the Gophers because he wasn't extending an offer. A better receiver than you would think. 46 receptions, 370 yards here. Guy reminds me a little bit of David Montgomery. He's not flash. He's not glitz. He did not show up fast there at the combine. He's just a good workhorse type of back. David Montgomery isn't your premier back. You saw that when he worked in tandem with a Jahmyr Gibbs. He was a great knuckles to Jahmyr Gibbs' Sonic. That's not to say that David Montgomery wasn't a good back and couldn't operate on his own, but you're not going to get the full potential out of him if you don't have a good complementary piece. So Johnson is a guy that's a little bit more of a 4th, 5th round pick for me. However, he could be like an everyday type starter still for you on a team, and will be seen as a value where you're going to be able to get him. Nick Singleton, I'm curious about him because of the foot injury. If this was last year's draft class when he hadn't committed yet, and ended up going back to college, he was one of those backs that was talked about as being one of the really good ones in a good group of running backs. This guy's probably going to be that not 3-down back, very quick, very agile. Numbers dropped off this last year at Penn State. Has the potential to be a good change of pace type of running back, good receiver, shifty, but not a guy that you want running up the A gap every time. And then beyond that, this class is pretty rough when it comes to running backs. Katron Allen, Singleton's running mate there, a little bit more of the thumper. But again,
23 years old as a running back, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand it. Like Mike Washington's 22, spent 5 years in college, but that's 3 years in college at 23. That makes me super nervous. Like, because running back of all places, you have to be like, okay, this kid, we got him until he's 27. And then at that point, we probably maybe don't extend him or try to get him for cheap, or we only do a short deal for 2-3 years. Like, when you have a back coming in at this age, it's even more nerve-wracking because of the age. Like, I don't love it. And it's not because he's a Penn State guy.
Yep.
And
last thing I'm going to talk about here, Damon Claiborne. He's a guy who's definitely going to be a late 5th, 6th round pick. Did not have a good year his last year here at Wake Forest. But he's a guy that when I watch his tape, I actually really like what I see. And I feel like maybe it was just things not falling in his favor. It's tough for me to quantify. Again, pretty low numbers here as far as his attempts and receiving numbers. But he's a guy that I think's top end could be somewhere around, maybe not as fast and explosive, but the same sort of running style as a Raheem Mostert is what I kind of saw out of him. So I think that given the right opportunity, that he could be a good guy in a backfield, a platoon of people. All right, we'll get to your guy that you want to talk about here, and I'm down for talking about him too.
Yeah, I can't believe he's listed as a goddamn fullback.
Yeah, because he's a motherfucking weapon.
Yeah, he is a weapon. Yeah, so it's fucking crazy. So he's listed as a running back on some sources, a fullback on others. And he finished his career with like 4 times as many receiving yards as he did rushing yards. He set the career receiving yards and rushing touchdowns record at Navy. He should be listed as a wide receiver. But since he's listed as a running back, I'm going to talk about him right here. He's incredibly versatile and can be really productive as a change of pace back, but he should just change to slot receiver. He looks better there and has shades of Edelman. You could also call him Danny Woodhead. That would also be a great comp. Essentially, I'm saying this kid is probably a Patriot at the end of the draft, or at least that's what I'm hoping.
He's white.
Exactly. He's an exciting white. He's going to the Patriots.
Yep.
I mean, and with the Navy background of old, I guess that's probably not really a thing anymore now that
Belichick's not there.
Belichick is gone. Yeah. But like, listen, he's obviously a high caliber individual. You don't join a fucking service academy and be a shitbag for the most part. So you know he's going to come in and work. He's incredibly productive. The size is there. He's 6 foot 206. That's definitely big enough to play in the slot in the NFL. He's twitchy. Ran a good fucking 40. I think with 4.44. He is not a fullback. He is a really good slot receiver and can work out of the backfield as a fucking change of pace, dynamic weapon, catching it out of the backfield type guy too. I hope Eli gets drafted. I think he's going to be a weapon somewhere for a team. They just got to give him a shot.
Yeah, so Heidenreich, it is super easy to do the comps to the Danny Woodheads, to the Wes Welker types, the exciting whites and stuff that you traditionally have seen a lot of on the New England Patriots and teams like that. I'm going to go with a different exciting white, one that you might not even know, but from a Minnesota faithful, you'll know, Chris Walsh. All right, another guy who's right around 6 foot 6'1", that 200-pound range. Chris Walsh lived his career as a number 3, number 4 wide receiver. He would get 20, 30 receptions a year. They were mostly situational stuff, but the guy was living as one of the best special teamers out there. Eli Heidenreich will make a team at a minimum as a special teamer. Yeah, again, he on PFF listed as a fullback, and I think it's because his position is so weird where, and it's because of the system there at Navy.
There's a
It makes him
fucking
more of a
wing T.
multi-tool. So he can line up in a tight end position, motion back into the backfield to get the ball on a handoff. He can be pitched the ball. He's a guy that can definitely take a handoff. He's good at receiving. You look at the receiving numbers here. 941 receiving yards. And part of that is because of that offense that was played there and what's counted as a reception. The point is that the guy is good with the ball in his hands. He's a hard fucking worker. He's a willing blocker. I'm not going to call him a great blocker by any means, but he's going to put in the effort for it. He's not going to olay anybody. So that's a guy with that sort of work effort and the production that you saw that I know will at least be able to contribute on an NFL football team minimum as a special teamer. But he's a guy that if he keeps on grinding, another lunch pail guy, he's going to make an NFL roster. He's going to make an impact, and he's going to stick there for a long time. And if he starts to hit some of those high-end potentials, yeah, we're talking about some of those exciting white receivers that we've seen up there in New England.
All right. Well, that was the last guy that I had. I get to finish on Eli. That felt good for me. Do you have any other backs you want to talk about?
You know, if we're going to consider fullbacks to be backs, and I know that he's not necessarily a fullback, and I don't know if we're going to get to this guy necessarily with our tight ends when we talk about them. The one guy I want to talk about who I think truly is a fullback in this league, while listed as a tight end, way down the list here. Where is he? And this sounds like an exciting white name. Riley Nowakowski.
That is definitely, that dude is from, his family is like what, Polish or something of the sort.
I don't know, but he ain't white. He's black and he has dreads.
Really?
Yeah.
Riley.
Yeah. And so you look at his size here, definitely not traditional for a tight end. 250, 6'2". He's short, but that's the thing is he lined up on the line, but usually offset, more of that wing back. He's a guy that absolutely can shift into that backfield as well. The dude is a fantastic blocker, but he still put up okay numbers receiving the ball here, especially for how late this guy is usually being taken, especially in PFF drafts. He's looked at as like a 7th round to a UDFA type of guy. If you're in need for a fullback, if your team uses a fullback, a la my Vikings, I think this guy's like a perfect fit. Makes me think of Jim Kleinsasser back in the day for the Vikings.
Damn. That's a deep cut.
He's got the name of a fullback. He's got that hardcore, I need to wear a bully bar helmet, neck roll type of fullback. But the neck roll is the dreads. The dude is awesome. He was part of this Indiana team and one of the more overlooked guys for this Indiana team on offense. He's the guy that helped, just like the offensive lineman, make the plays happen, led them to a national championship game. Completely undersung guy here. Has productivity in the pass game, especially when kind of swung out of the backfield. I think he's a really good blocker.
All right. Listen, I was not ready for Riley.
Riley Nowakowski. He's a dude, man. Really smart, really academically sound, really personable. From what I've been able to see on his interviews and video interviews and stuff like that. So someone that I would love to see on my Vikings. And yeah, I brought up the Jim Kleinsasser name. One of my first jerseys as a Viking fan was a big Jim Kleinsasser guy. And I think that he would be that perfect mold type of fit if your team still runs fullback.
All right. Not a lot of teams running fullback nowadays, but if you are, there's not a ton of great ones out there. The ones that are already really good are already signed. Man. But Evo, my dude, let's get the fuck out of here so you can go back to enjoying the rest of your spring break, the family. But you all right, brother?
Yeah, no, I'm looking down the hallway. I'm seeing a light up glowy wand levitating in the darkness. So I think I'm about to get a show. Looking forward to that before hitting the hay and then getting ready for some parks tomorrow.
Hell yeah, man. I hope you guys have a great time. Tell the boys and your wife that we say hello. We love them. Enjoy your time. And to everybody who tuned in tonight, thank you. We love you as well. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. So anytime you give some of it to us, We are forever grateful. I'm going to give Evo one last word. We're going to get the fuck out of here. We're going to come back next week with a whole new set of position groups that we haven't decided yet. We'll let you know when we do.
Last word is, hey, like Mike said earlier with the deep cuts of the 32 mock drafts, and like I kind of echoed, reach out, talk to us. We want to have the conversation. Try to be respectful. We're good with shit talking, but if you just call us fat AJ McCarron or the sexiest Travis Kelce type brother here, the Kelce brother, which I get, but have that conversation with us. We're approachable. Let us know what you want to know, because hint, hint, nudge, nudge, we're probably going to be there at the draft. We're going to hopefully have some access to be able to talk to some people. So reach out to us, talk to us, and jump into the film yourself so you can help us break down these players.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Guys, thank you very much. I am Mike. That is Evo, and this was Raw Dog Sports.
Dude.